So a few weeks ago, I shared with you this beautiful 1828 source, French source, talking about the metronome, saying that many amateur musicians, actually was what he meant, were not able to hold long notes long enough according to the intention of the composer, checking with the metronome marks. And so in many provincial theaters, they had to speed up, especially slow movements, a lot in order to just not embarrass the singers who are involved. If you haven't seen that video, it's in the description below. And so there were reactions to that video. Some of them were deleted, not by me, but by the, the persons who introduced the comments, because there were some heated debates on, whenever you present material, or let me say it like this, whenever we present recordings or we present research that would lead to practice of the metronome in the 19th century, which would be mainly in a whole beat perspective, which means you just take the full swing of the metronome, just like physicians do with a pendulum. Whenever you present that reading to metronome marks, by which, by the way, you solve all the problems. You can play suddenly all the music in the metronome marks given by the composers with the explicit intention to you just save their tempo indication, not only for their contemporary musicians, but for future generations in all countries. We will have more quotes on this from the 19th century. The book will have 100 quotes just saying that metronome marks are nothing more than exact, accurate representations of the metronome marks. And it's kind of weird that I have to make this case of this, that I have to make this disclaimer for metronome marks, because what else can a metronome mark be? But when you make that claim, one of the arguments is, yeah, but when you do that, singers and wind players would suffocate. Okay, they don't. They actually don't. When you present, people who can hold long notes, then people who are in this research not to be there with the intention to find the truth or to just do research, but to debunk or just to keep every possible solution off the table, they will say, yeah, of course, professionals can do it. We are professionals, we can hold long notes. Yeah, but when you present a WPMP, that argument of suffocation is well enough, is good enough to kind of generally debunk the whole idea of WPMP as obviously nonsense. So you cannot have it both ways. Either you're able to sing and to play on your woodwind or wind instrument in the whole beat reading of the metronome, and then you shouldn't use that argument to debunk it, or you cannot. This one of both. It's the same thing as with metronome marks. It's so funny actually, and also a little bit frustrating to see how these arguments can be played in both ways. When you present a recording that's slower than people expect, they will ask, why do you play so slow? Okay, we are playing according to the metronome marks read in whole beat. Yeah, the answer will be, don't be dogmatic. Metronome marks are whatever they are. But when you stick to them, actually as the composer would want you to do that, then they use the argument of, yeah, it's dogmatic. Why are they using that? It's because, of course, in a single beat reading, there is no possibility to play according to the metronome marks. So we're not used to do that, but we're also not used to having musicians around who actually play according to the metronome mark, be it in another reading. But when you ask them, or players of today, or mainstream musicologists, to say, why are you promoting such fast recordings? Yeah, obviously, the metronome marks are there. Can you not read the metronome mark? They're so fast, so we have to do everything within our power to meet them, even though we cannot read them. But of course, that part of the story you never hear. So also metronome marks are used in this weird double argumentation, used against the application of it, because when you find a way to apply them, you're dogmatic, or it's not so, they're not meant like that. But when you question the fast performances on the other side, that people actually have trouble hearing individual notes even that fast, then say, yeah, what do you want? Those the same metronome marks that were good enough to promote or to just label us or people who tried to stick to them as dogmatic, now they're good enough to defend these fast performances. It's almost a joke. So, but if you see through it, it's a joke, but this argument is used so many times. So that's the reason also for this little series of videos where I just showcase you that breathing, bowing, no problem. So Massimiliano Miani, who recorded with us this trio version a few years ago already now. We're certainly going to do that again and release it on a CD. He made also a beautiful, well, very telling demonstration of a long note. And so just I give you a few seconds here of this recording. For those of you who have not heard it, it's in the description box. It's surprising, to my surprise, it's never actually got the views I expected, because this answers a lot of questions on breathing and bowing. But anyways, it's in the description box if you want to enjoy this again. Just a little fragment. We had so much fun recording this, and Max, he never ever had the feeling of being in trouble with his breath, never. And so what he is demonstrating here with a simple, he recorded it with his cell phone, and you will hear the metronome ticking. He is playing Fourth Symphony of Beethoven. This symphony is often used like, this is obviously not possible. Okay, we will see. So he's playing this even a little slower than Beethoven's metronome red and whole beat, to just show that there is even margin. So this note will be around 44 seconds. And again, disclaimer, if you're not a professional, don't try to imitate or to hold your breath. It's what happens with me when I see him playing, or when I sit next to him and he's demonstrating long notes. You try automatically to, adjust your breathing, and it's not working. So you will feel that this is only for professional guys. So here you have him. So around 44 seconds, that's a bad recording. Obviously, I'm sorry for that. Actually, I'm not. But this is possible. The question, though, is, so that's the Fourth Symphony is for 34 seconds, so there will be no problem. Was even a crescendo at the end of this note. So, I mean, this is just, he took his periodical clarinet, he took his cell phone, and he recorded that. I mean, if he would warm up it would, I mean, you see, it's just possible. The thing that annoys me, though, is you have pieces, Massimiliano pointed me to Mahler fourth, when you have very long clarinet passages. It's still doable, but it's on the edge. It's when he says in their way of performance 26 seconds, so it's doable. But when you would go to a symphony like the Alpen Symphony of Richard Strauss, at the beginning he says that's basically impossible. And what orchestras do, and I have a small fragment here where you will be able to see that. Let me just fix this, because. So when I have to interrupt a little bit my own video here, for reason that when I uploaded the original version of this video to YouTube, that it was blocked by the copyright owner of this, the owner of the recording of the Alpen Symphony. Just the 20 seconds that I used was enough for them to block it. You have oftentimes what happens is that you get a copyright claim, which is nothing wrong with that. You just share the revenue, whatever the channel is making for videos like this, or you just entirely give that revenue to the copyright owner. But in this case, I cannot show it to you. So all my comments I made just right before and after, I have to repeat. And it was not a big deal. I mean, just that in this symphony, you'll see that people are changing bowings in the cello parts or in the bassoon parts. You can see that in spite of having long notes to play. I cannot see that very good for the clarinet players, but they can use, of course, today circular breathing. It's important to note, though, that in Massimiliano's long note in Beethoven, he didn't use that at all. So he told me in those days, there's no evidence that well, wind players actually already used circular breathing, which allows players today just to continue or to sustain a note as long as they want. So his example was done in just one breath. It's important to note that. Also, it was Mahler's first symphony, not fourth symphony, fourth movement of the first symphony. With having said all of that, we can continue to the original video. Here it is. So I'm not saying that they did something wrong, far from, but the question is, if you would apply the same remark or methodology, that's not a methodology, but when people say, okay, but you have long notes in Beethoven's music, you have long notes in Brahms' music, you have long notes in 19th century music, so this causes a little bit of problems for musicians. Well, we have shown that's not the case. In the 19th century, we would not have this kind of problematic, really long notes. Well, maybe not the entire 19th century. But my point is that certainly in Beethoven's music or in, let's say, the earlier 19th century music, it's doable, it's manageable. It was kind of virtuosity those days to hold long notes. But when we want to promote or when we suggest the WBMP, the whole beat metronome practice as a possible solution, and probably the solution to all the tempo problems related to the metronome, then people use this argument like, yeah, those long notes, you have to be able to sustain your breath, you have to be able to play everything in one bow, even though there is not mentioned anything or not much that you should do. And even on the contrary, there is a lot of sources that suggest that you can breathe under slurs of, bowings in scores. But that's an argument. So actually what people are saying, like, if you have long notes, then you have to find a tempo in which singers and wind players can play those notes in one breath, or string players in one bow. But why is a modern conductor or conductor of these days not applying the same thing when it's about the symphony of Richard Strauss? Why is he not saying, hey guys, I see some of you are struggling to hold the notes like in one bow or to just hold your breath on a bassoon, and so you have to make, arrangements with your colleagues to make the suggestion of one long note, what Strauss obviously want, and so let's just play it faster so that you are able to just have this long note and one breath of in one bow. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It only happens when you present a solution to a metronome problem, and then even in an abstract way, because people who suggest that have not tried. In that music of Beethoven and his contemporaries, it's not a problem. On the contrary, it's just easier for singers and wind players in general to play that music. You can actually play or sing the notes. So it's a little bit of hypocrisy, eh? So, and it's a clear sign that even if musicians or musicologists label themselves as hip, historically informed performance practice, it's a kind of empty box. Because what they don't do is experiment with the material that we have. They claim that they are generally interested in reconstructing the composer's intentions. But when it comes to the first and foremost and the most important fact that we have, it's not a matter of interpretation. The metronome marks given explicitly by the composers to just save their tempo intentions, not only for their contemporaries, but also for future generations and in all countries, as some of those quotes are so beautifully phrased. When it comes to that, we suddenly say, well, we pretend that we care, but we actually don't play according to this metronome marks, because if you care about it, when you really find a solution even that enables you to do that, you're dogmatic. Well, I have news for you. There's nothing dogmatic in following facts when your intention is to reconstruct the composer's intention. And when you don't want that, that's fine. But you cannot have it both ways. You cannot say, we are using this label, which is still highly effective. I would say less than it was 30 years ago for obvious reasons, I would say, and not doing the work you have to do, not going there, not taking the risk to go there where you should go, where, you know, your audience expects you to be. And even worse, you know, giving your audience the impression that you go there where you don't. That's acting like a hypocrite. And I'm sorry, these are strong words, but it's not honest. And at the least you can say that. It's not just honest. You should be honest about what you do. Anyways, that is something I wanted to share. I know that this will not end the discussion of, will make people to say like, okay, yeah, now we know that long notes is not actually a problem. You shouldn't use that argument. But of course, the argument will be used. But you watching this, you have this in your pocket, so to say. Long notes for professional musicians cause no problems at all when you reconstruct 19th century music according to the principle of the WBMP. So there you have it. Nothing more I can add for this video. Just thank you for watching. And if you're new to the show, to this channel, please hit the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss any updates. We are going to build other layers on this channel soon, the coming weeks and months. And if you really want to push us beyond the limits of the work that we do, and we really need that, consider becoming a patron. Links is in the description box, and I would very much appreciate you checking that out. In the meantime, thanks for watching. See you soon again.